Good morning, good morning. It is my favorite time of the week. It is Tuesday, 11 a.m. and you're coming to the Better Business Place live interview series. Today we have a very special guest, Bernard Kassab. I'm going to read out his bio because it's pretty impressive. And we've known one another for, I'd actually say that I went to a BNI chapter. I was invited to a BNI chapter and I met him and then I followed up with him straight afterwards, but he runs a company called, when I first met him, Design I Am. And I really love the branding, and that's what made me sort of reach out. But Bernard has been working in brand and marketing for about 10 years now. He has worked in a multitude of businesses environments, including corporate. He's also run his own agency called Ucidity, which is a diverse range of experience. He identifies obstacles within a business, formulates a strategy on focusing on leads to the customer experience all around business growth. And today we're going to be talking about the 3 C's that you can get more business from your website. Hi, everyone, and hello, Bernard. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, mate. I'm really happy to be here. Really excited to do this with you.
Mate, it's been ages since we've caught up.
Yeah, face to face especially.
Well, yeah, obviously the whole COVID thing. So for those people that don't know you like I do, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, sure. So I have a background, a creative background. So I did communication design. That's kind of where my qualifications came from. And as my business developed and grew, I saw opportunities to broaden that and take in more of a commercial and a marketing stride. To make what we create more effective and more tangible for customers. So I've also got qualifications in marketing and business management. So kind of cover the whole spectrum. Really want to focus on taking design from just being a creative element to being a commercial piece of growth for a business, or a tangible piece of the pie that makes up the marketing suite for a business.
Okay. Now, one of the things that impressed me the most when we started to get to know one another was your onboarding process and the way that you really defined who you want to be working with. But before we get there, I just want you to talk to me about why do you do this work? What's in it for you? What drives you? What makes you wake up in the morning and do the work that you do?
Yeah, sure. I think I could say it very simply, but I think I actually relate it with this kind of analogy. And I think if you think of a parent when they have their first child, how proud they are of that child. And as that child grows, how amazed they are at every change and step along the way through that growth. Mm-hmm. And it's the same with a business. People get connected and build a really strong relationship with their business. And it's a passion for them, just like raising a child is something that they're passionate about. And that is something that I'm passionate about. I'm passionate about being your brand parent with your business and helping that business grow and building it from nothing into something, or taking it from something that's grown and then grow it to the next level. That's something that really motivates me and motivates us in our business, and why we love doing what we do.
Mm-hmm. I noticed that you didn't tell us everything about you. I noticed there's a cat in the background.
There is a cat. Where is he? Yeah, there.
You're a cat person.
I am a cat person. I find them very efficient pets. You know, they kind of take care of themselves other than feeding. But that's why I like having them around. But recently, he's actually come to fight himself in the mirror for some reason. He just realized that he has a reflection and hasn't really taken to it that well. So it's been a little bit entertaining the last couple of days in the office with him hanging around.
You know, I always am very curious as to why a hairdresser has that back mirror, you know, when they cut your hair and then they show you the back part of your head. And of course I'm going bald. So I'm like, no, don't show me the mirror. What do I want to see that for? It's part of myself that I don't like. So maybe that's what your cat's going through. Hey, hang on a second. I don't have to look at my face. I don't want to look at that. So, all right. Well, tell me about the types of clients that you mostly work with.
Yeah, sure. So we typically work with a lot of businesses now through both professional services and B2C type businesses. We focus really around IT and telco businesses. We've worked with quite a few of those, and we've actually worked with quite a few in the construction and development space. So we have a couple of strata companies and developers like that. And then also not-for-profit. We have a good not-for-profit background, and we do from time to time do pro bono work for charities. It's something that is more of a passion project for us, which we really love to do. Typically, we find the businesses are really up around that upper small to mid-sized business, kind of 5 to 25, $50 million business, typically anywhere between 20 and 80 seats. So they're established businesses. They get what's happening in business. They usually have one or two people in the business that represent the marketing arm of the business. So it might be a marketing coordinator, a marketing manager, a director of marketing. And we come in to support them to actually roll out those strategies within the business, because one person can't do it alone. There's so many different avenues within marketing. It's not just coming up with a strategy, but it's also how does it roll out across social media? How does it roll out in the brand? What are your graphic design elements? What are the web elements? What is the CRM that sits behind it? How do you make sure you don't miss a lead through the process? So those businesses, they're a little bit more savvy. They've been in the game for a bit, and we can really get in there and sink our teeth in and help them execute that strategy so it's as effective as possible. And how do we tie that into the sales part of the business to ensure that a lead that comes in through marketing turns into a conversion that goes through sales?
Right. Okay. So for the people watching today's show, or if you're watching on the replay, I just want you to jump in the chat right now and just type in live. I'm here live. Or if you're watching it on a replay, just stamp out replay. But the thing that I want to draw your attention to is that with all of these qualifications that Bernard has and the types of businesses that he serves, what he's going to share with you today is at that level. Okay. And so if you're a business that's not at that level yet, but you're wanting to grow, you're going to get how the creative department thinks. Okay. So I know that some of you are here right now going, oh God, well, I might as well just tune out right now because I'm not earning $5 million. I want to be, and I have a dream to be, but I'm not there yet. Well, then you should especially pipe up and take some notes, right? Because when it talks about the 3 C's, we're going to break those down into all different elements and know that if you apply these, you can just be getting sales through your website like that, okay? So how about we just dive right into it and ask you a question like, boom, what's your biggest challenge right now in your business? Or over your entire business career?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what might resonate with a lot of businesses too is the cash flow conversation. How do you keep those going from project to project, especially in our industry, which is often project to project? How do you keep the cash flow constantly coming in the business so that you can continue to grow it and support the resources that you have in the business, the people that are behind the business? So I think a lot of business owners kind of face that, and it's definitely something that we ebb and flow around all the time in ours.
Cash flow is king, isn't it?
Yeah.
When you look at your profit and loss and you sort of think, wow, I've made this amount of money, but I don't see it. That's where you have a look at, well, what's your cash flow doing? And there's lots of things you can do. We've got an account coming up in a couple of weeks, but yeah, it's definitely a big challenge, isn't it? If you don't have the cash in there and you're wanting to grow, how do you buy the software or the tools or the staff or the product so that you can sell more?
Mm-hmm. And there's also benchmarks. Like every time you hit another profit margin, you need to employ another resource. Those profits then go to that new resource. It allows you to grow to the next level, but it's continually it doesn't matter how big you grow, it's something that you're always going to come up against. And you can't not hire resources or else your business will just become stagnant. It just won't have the ability to grow anymore. But you need to be able to be measured in when you bring on that resource so that you can effectively grow it stably.
Well, it's a balancing act. I know when in my previous work, I've always been involved in business and business growth. And I ask people, so how much would you like to grow? One of my red flags or bullshit radars that goes off is when someone says that they want to grow 100%. I'm like, yeah, right. Well, okay. Have you got good equity in your home? Like you own your own home and you've got, like $500,000 or $1 million in equity. No? Okay. Well, you must have a shitload of money in the bank then. All right. And they look at me strange and I'm like, well, for you to grow 100%, that means you've either got to be able to have a product that created out of thin air with no margins, with no costs at all, and being able to, sell it. Or you're going to have to employ some people to deliver on that promise, or you're going to have to buy some stock for that. Where's the money coming from for you to do that? So, it is one of those conversations where every business sort of goes through it. I know you can forecast it, but you've always got that balancing act between growth and actually having the funds to do it. So good on you for being brave enough to sort of saying, hey, you know what, that's probably been the biggest challenge that I've ever faced. Well, what are the things that you're doing right now? What does a marketing agency do to grow their business?
We market. No.
We market the hell out of ourselves, and we do it well.
Look, one thing that we didn't really mention before is that this business is a new business, Ucidity. We launched it at the beginning of, at the end of February, February 20. And then a couple of weeks later, COVID hit. And it's been...
So at that point, you're sort of saying the marketing strategy we've got is really working right well,
Yeah, we're on one.
Yeah.
But essentially, when I partnered with my business partner, I turned to him one day and I said, what we're going to do is we're going to flood the market. Everywhere that somebody looks, I want them to see something that we've done or a piece of knowledge that we're sharing. And that's been a key focus from us since the moment we launched the business. And if you have a look at our blog, you'll see that we do maybe 2 to 3 blogs, sometimes per week. Often we're trying to get out about 2 per week at the moment. And it's done wonders for us as well. Like I can just easily say, through just producing the content, we have about 4 key terms that are ranked #1, and the website's only been up for a couple of months, 3 months, 4 months, So, and the content strategy's only been rolling out for that long. So once you get it right and you get the rhythm going, it does incrementally keep growing and adding value to everything that you produce. So that's what we're doing. We're also doing a little bit of PR work now through some connections that we're building through our network. We want to drive some traditional advertising, which is really uncommon, but in our industry. But that's part of the magic. Like I think people neglect traditional advertising. Because of the old adage that it's extremely expensive and you can't measure the value, etc. But what it does do is gives you amazing brand exposure. And when you're trying to put your feet in the ground and really set your position within a market, it's something that shouldn't be ignored. It doesn't mean you're necessarily going to go for it, but at least look into it and see where the opportunity might lie for your business. And that's what we're doing. So we're just flooding the market.
Okay. I will start looking out now to see. And I've got a couple of examples on where you are on the on your blog post. I want to bring some of those up. So why don't we get down to it? Why don't we get down to the reason why people are come on board? And thanks very much, Mick, for joining us, and Chris also joining live. I wanted to find out if anybody watching live has got a branding question. Feel free to type that in, and myself and Bernard will get to that at the end. It could be a big challenge that you're trying to achieve right now, or it's a little bit of advice. While I've got an expert on here is your really great ritual for me to lean on Bernard and sort of saying, hey, what would you do here? All right. So I'm gonna throw it over to the section I like to call lights, camera, action. And this is where Bernard really tells us about, well, what are the 3 C's and how can you actually get your website producing either leads, which are money, or people buying something. So why don't you take us through it?
Awesome. Almost like you're going to pull out one of those things and go, action,
Action. You know what? That's a damn good idea. Next week, I'll give my team, hang on a tick, I'll just tell out to the resources team, hey, resources team, yes. Can you go and get one of those? Yes, we'll go and do that next week. Yep. It's the same guy, by the way. Yep. Okay. So take us through it, mate.
Awesome, guys. So I'm actually going to surprise you. I didn't even let you in on this little secret. There is a 4th C that I'm gonna throw into the mix, and it's something that I've been talking to people about a lot more recently. So I'm going to throw it in there, so you guys have a full end-to-end kind of idea of how this rolls out. So the 3 C's are conviction, consistent, and congruent. Now, they probably don't make much sense yet, but I'm going to fill you in with a bit of the details. So the idea around your website, or the way that you position your brand online, is all about all around these 3 C's. Conviction is your first C, and conviction is all about how do you believe and position and personify the brand that you've created, and how does that then transition into every element of the brand. So, you know, we talk about multi-channel marketing, and part of those channels is your website. And it's typically a very focal channel because it's where a lot of your customers end up to do the credibility part of who you are, and whether or not what you've said to them face to face resonates in the content that you produce or in the brand that you've created. And it might not be face-to-face conversation. It could be over a video chat. It could be an article that they've read, and then they head to your website afterwards to kind of vet whether or not it's all feels consistent and all feels the same. Conviction is about how do you take that vision and distill it into a way that effectively speaks to your target audience and speaks to them with authenticity. So it feels real. It feels natural, like you. You don't want to create a brand where you feel like you're always having to play a part, because there's going to be times where you can't play the part. You can't always be acting. You can't always be on every second. You want to create a brand that is you, or represents the vision that you have, and that can be then bred through all the elements of the business. So that's conviction. It's a little bit open-ended, but it will start to distill into the other C's. So consistency is then, how do you take that vision, those ideas, that concept, that passion that you have, that brand and the positioning that you want to create, and then how do you then breathe that into every little element of the business? Every touch point is important. Every time a customer sees or experiences something of yours, it builds the trust factor with that customer. Mm-hmm. And every time something doesn't really align, it creates a fracture in that trust. So ensuring the implementation is consistent with every single element, the voice, the tone, even the language. Often people don't think to talk to their designer about the language. Are we a risky kind of company? Are we going to use language that's more jargon? Are we going to use more street language? Are we going to use professional language? What is the language? What is the tone of the company? What is the feeling that should give to a customer when they experience it? How is it reinforced with the styling of the brand? What are the brand elements that then complement that positioning? If you want to go for an elegant, sophisticated brand, you're probably not going to splash a lot of colors and a lot of elements on the page, because it starts to look a little bit more either playful or cheap and cheerful. So understanding those contexts and the use of those elements and ensuring they roll out consistently across every single execution is extremely important. And that is as simple as, like, I always give an example of a business like Harvey Norman's. And when you walk into a Harvey Norman's, you see all the drop-down banners and all this kind of stuff all over the shop. But Harvey Norman's is kind of in the realm of electronic stores. It's a bit of a premium brand. So the expectation is, when you walk into a store like that, is for a more premium experience. Mm-hmm. I had a conversation the other day with somebody talking about Myer, and if Myer and David Jones could reinvigorate their presence as retail stores. And I said their biggest challenge is the experience they provide to customers. Because if I wanted to know the best information about Ralph Lauren, I wouldn't walk into a David Jones or a Myer. I would walk into the boutique store that's probably right there next door to the entrance of David Jones for Ralph Lauren. I'll just walk straight into the store and I'll talk directly to the people at Ralph Lauren. So that is the missing element when you're trying to, like, especially with these prestige brands, is creating an experience that really gets people to go, wow, this is different. And then how do you make every step along that experience different from any other experience they're going to have at another store? And that's that consistency that creates that brand trust, that brand relationship.
We talk about that in referral marketing. I say there's a referral confidence curve. Mm-hmm. And it starts out low. People don't know you, but as it goes along a certain time, and then it goes up. All right, and then you're getting lots of referrals. But you're either going up and down. I mean, some people think that you start at one point and then just go to the next point. But in reality, what actually happens is you start out at one point, go up a little bit, do something that damages the brand, come back a bit, you try to move it up a bit, damage, up, down, up, down. And so it's always moving all the time. sometimes things are in your control and sometimes things aren't. But from a brand perspective, you definitely want that consistency, because it comes down from what I see is someone will take me from a website, and then they'll take me to a landing page where they don't have any logo, all right, or they don't have any of the brand color, or they use a different language. And sometimes I go into that point where, am I still at the same business? Am I still in the same shop? I don't know. And I've really got to get that feeling like I'm doing the right thing, because our brains want to do the right thing. But if they've created doubt from not creating that consistency or that same as experience is what you're saying, I know what happens. I just click refresh, or no, this is not right, and I don't purchase. Yeah. I know exactly what you mean.
I have an analogy that I always use, and it's a bit of a funny analogy, but I essentially, like, imagine you had a really good relationship with your neighbor. And one day your neighbor walks out and his face is completely different. And you're like, hey, Jane, oh wait, you're not James. How much of a fracture in the trust does that create? That's not James anymore. That's some other guy with some different face. You could speak the same, but it's definitely not him. And it's the same thing that your brand does. Every time it puts out something that doesn't align with that overall message, the things that should be, that you should have your conviction in, your positioning in, your real meaty part of the business. Every time it doesn't align, it's just like that. It creates that fracture. People go, oh wait, you're not the guy that I expected to see walk out the door. And it does exactly that. Like, I think you're right. And what you want to do is kind of minimize those little dips, because they're going to happen anyway, right? There's going to be something that you misstep a little bit, or you try something new or different, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. And you have to challenge yourself in your brand and see where you can push it and see where the opportunities lie. You can't always do the same thing and expect it to continue to grow.
Well, that's it. You just gave a great example. When someone meets you for the first time and goes, oh, you're not what I was expecting, that's a brand problem. That's definitely someone was expecting something else and you're not it. So if you've ever come across that, then you should be looking out going, oh, what were you expecting? What has my brand built your expectancy up to me being like? Because if there's a gap, guess what? There's the first opportunity, someone saying, hey, you need to go back and look at that. Okay. Yeah. All right.
And the other thing around that as well is that it also then opens up the opportunity for them to look elsewhere. If you fractured that trust now, but they're already now in the search for a service, and you weren't the one that represented what they needed at the time, they're likely to head elsewhere. And that's often what happens. In a website, you have 3 to 7 seconds to really put that message across as the message that they're looking for. And if you don't hit the mark, chances are they're probably going to look at 2 or 3 other of your other competitors. And they're going to naturally do that anyway. You just want to be the most compelling message that hits the mark. And the other thing is, which is a great example of that as well, is if you're getting the wrong fit customer, which often people talk about the wrong fit customer. Either they're always trying to beat me down on price, or they don't see the value, things like that. That is another brand problem. And that often transpires through people's websites. People's websites don't often speak volumes about the qualities of their brand. And it seems to be somewhere where people think they can either cut corners, go for a cheerful site, or just create a one-off brochureware type site and then never touch it again. And they think, oh yeah, it's done, it's dusted, tick, I've done the web thing, moving on. And this actually leads really well into the congruence part of the third C, which is congruence, which is how do you maintain that brand that you've now created? And your website is a big piece of the maintaining of your brand and that relationship that you create with customers. We talk about the things that you layer behind and the things that you put in front of your website. So landing pages, how do you create crucial content that is really specific to a type of customer that you want to be working with? If you haven't considered landing pages or done what we call industry vertical pages, then chances are you're missing the opportunity to sell directly to the kind of customer you really want to be working with. Nobody works with everyone. And it's mind-blowing how many times you sit down with companies, even established companies, and they say, well, we can really work with everyone. And I say, okay, how much does it cost to typically work with you? And they say $20,000. I say, well, everyone can't work with you for $20,000. Not everyone has $20,000, right? So why do you even waste your time trying to go after everyone? What you want to go after is maybe 40% of the market. And then from there, we can niche it down even further into particular people that actually need your service or your product. So those landing pages are really, really focused, and industry vertical pages, same thing. Target the industry. Weave in the language the industry uses naturally, so that you're actually talking to them, and identify what I call seeding the journey, seeding the buyer's journey. Seed it with questions or perspectives that get them to think about, oh yeah, that is me. Oh yeah, I am suffering that. Oh, I have experienced that. By doing that, they start to align with the story. They become part of the story, and then they're more likely to get in contact with you and then want to take it to the next step because of that. And then how seamless is that experience? Once they do reach out to you, how do you take that experience and go, well, here's some more information, here's some more value, here's some more knowledge that we can share with you that's going to continue to add value as we develop this conversation together. So blogs are a big part of that. We use a mechanic in our business where essentially once we've had a conversation with a client, we take out any questions that they had and we go, okay, which one of these questions are blog worthy, or are all these questions blog worthy? And we essentially take the insights that our customers are asking for and we turn them into blogs. And that's actually where the 3 C's were established. It was actually at a networking meeting, and somebody asked me, I was presenting that morning, and somebody asked me, what are you going to be talking about? And I was like, well, you know, what's going on with your business? And he starts filling me in, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to talk about. And I wrote out the 3 C's that morning. And then I took it, and now I turned it into an article that also sits on our site.
Well, actually, that's a good point that you bring up, is I'm going to bring that up here. So you actually had 3 articles that I sort of brought up. So this one is how to brand your business, the ultimate guide. Is that what you're talking about there?
Yeah, so that's the big one. So when you get down to the implementation section, you'll see the 3 C's kind of drawn out there, and the secret 4C that I haven't spoken about yet.
Right, okay, I shouldn't give it away.
No, you can go down there. But yes, this has all the content, literally from the first moment you decide to start your brand or rebrand your brand, how to reach out to an agency and the right way to approach an agency, what a brand is actually made up of and the elements that make a brand, how to then implement it, roll it out, and then the execution, and then the implementation, then the execution. So what is it that then comes out from the business, and how do people interact with that?
Wow, you know, when I first started doing That Referral Guy brand, I identified that there was a big job, because if you think of everywhere it goes, and I'm just looking at this particular article or blog post, you don't realize how much work there is to actually get done. And here's an example of, I was working with a business the other day, and I've highlighted vector format. When I saw their logo, it wasn't on a clear background, and it was in such a format that you could stretch it. And so on some of their documentation, someone who doesn't understand how it actually should have been provided to them in the first place meant that every time someone needed to squeeze into a particular box or certain confinements, the brand wasn't the way that it was supposed to be. It either looked squashed or stretched and sort of going, and it's a different image. So you've actually got to control that. So that was nice to see. Wow, okay, so here we are. Conviction, you've just spoken about. Consistency, congruent. Should I roll up and you can talk about the last one?
I'm going to upgrade the 4th one. It's copy, which seems kind of a little bit interesting. But I'm going to upgrade it to content, and it's going to cover two different avenues. So copy being the written word that goes into everything. And the reason why I put this in here is because a lot of people don't think about it. And a lot of people assume that what they wrote actually makes sense to customers. And quite often, it actually just makes sense to you because you know what you're talking about. Your customers, on the other hand, they're not as familiar with your brand, and they're not as familiar with the journey of your product and your service and what that means to them. So copy is extremely important for a bunch of factors, not only just the selling journey or the buyer's journey, but also from an SEO and keyword perspective. Getting a good copywriter who understands and knows how to play ball with Google will know how to leverage your content in a way that Google will index it better, so it can be found easier by the right types of customers. And those are things like, as a regular business owner, you're not going to know them. There's no way you're going to be an SEO professional and be able to run your business too. Unless you're in SEO, then great. the chances are you'll probably put too much SEO talk, too much industry jargon that will again isolate that relationship with your customers. And the reason I'm going to upgrade it to content is I also want to talk about social media. And a lot of people don't think about how does that message then transition across all their social media platforms. You have different platforms with different language types, different methodologies of speaking. LinkedIn, as an example, likes more long-form written text, whereas your Instagram wants pictures and a short snippet, right? Knowing how to leverage those different language types and the different visual component is really important in the content part of maintaining your business and continuing to put out that brand concept or that brand idea.
Yeah, I would agree that most people just do their copy from their own perspective, and yet they are not their own customer. Look, I'm going to throw it out to a question here because Chris Millay has asked a great sort of question. I see this one being asked. Let me just bring it up for him. Okay, so Chris has actually asked, my business is BizConnect IT. I'm about to invest in large signs. Now, Chris, if you're online, how large do you mean? The business is not a retail shop and not just a computer repair shop. It's more like a workshop. So do we brand our computer workshop or what? How would you answer that one? It's a great question. It's a really good question.
It's an awesome question. And the reason that makes it even more awesome is we've been considering this within our own business. And the reason is because a lot of people in our industry don't publicly brand their businesses. They don't have street-facing signage. So if you were to ask me the question, would I recommend that you do it? If you have an exposed front to the business, 100%. 100%. The first off, because it creates a little bit of credibility. If somebody walks past your shop or your storefront and there's no signage there, instantly it creates a little bit of fracture because they're like, well, what is this dodgy looking store that is here? The other thing is for your brand exposure. People are naturally going to walk by and they'll see the signage and then go, oh, what's that all about? And I've seen it with other computer service brands, even one that did data recovery that had street exposure. And they put massive signage up on their store, and it was based in North Sydney. And they used to get a ton of foot traffic because of the general need for that kind of service. Now, I understand you're not doing like the day-to-day computer, small computer repairs. You're probably, it seems like from what you've written there, it's more commercial computer repairs or computer service or maintenance. But I think the exposure that it gives you is worth it. And you really only ever print a sign once every 10 odd years because of the quality of the signage and the longevity of signage. So if you buy good signage, you won't have to replace that often. So it's not a huge investment over 10 years. Even if you spend, let's say $4,000, it's $400 a year over a 10-year period. It's not a huge bite out of the pie.
So when Chris is talking about large signs, he's just typed in here 2,400 by 700. So 2.
Boarding signage?
Yes. Yeah. So when I said he's about to invest in large signs, so you're looking at 2.4 meters by 700. That's quite a big. It's not a huge sign, but it's quite a big sign, right? What do you think he should do? Should he brand when you're taking clients through and someone is sitting opposite the table from you and says, hey, do I brand the workshops or do I brand the repair shop? What should I be doing there? Now, I already know the answer to this because you actually have a process you take people through.
Yeah, look, it's challenging. It really comes down to how they want to position the brand again. And the first thing is to understand where their best customers come from. If they're making a choice between one or the other, which one is the one that's most valuable to the business? The other opportunity is, which is something we do within websites, and you can also do it within your signage, is create split signage so that you can either like divide up the entryway, so like repair versus workshop, or if you only have one single entry, you could split the sign, 2 different colors, 2 different two different positioning statements. What you want to do is, that's a really large sign. So you got to be careful that the logo is not too big. Just because you have a lot of room does not mean you put the world's biggest logo on it, because it can look very clumsy. And then you also don't want to put too many details on there, because people are essentially going to be walking by or driving by. They're not necessarily going to stop. So what you want to do is put your heavy hitters on there to grab people's attention, not try and flood them with every piece of information about the business, hoping that they pick up the right one.
Mm. Yeah, that's a great way to answer. I liked your first part of the answer there, going, you really need to consider which customer is the best for the business, all right? Sometimes it's the best for the business is only a $1,000 spend, but it's over 12 months, all right? And yet the one-off might be a 2,000. So you might be tempted to sort of go, you know what, I'm going to go with the 2,000 because that means more to me. But if you think about the life cycle of the customer and where there are other possible revenue streams that could come to you from that particular person, yeah, that's a great way to consider that. Hopefully, Chris, that helps answer your question. So I also want to throw out that, you know, you actually had a number of other articles. I'll just add that you had this one here, how to squeeze more out of your website without spending much more money. Actually thought that was a great, and you've done a little video on this one.
Yeah. So this one was a little collaboration between me and my business partner. It's something that we talk about a lot for a lot of customers. And even when you're considering on redoing your website, sometimes a quick wins approach is a better approach. You can start getting some customers through the door, make a little bit more cash flow in the business before jumping into the big behemoth that could be redoing your entire website. And it can sometimes be a giant project. So we talk about how do you leverage landing pages, content, and SEO to start getting some traffic through the door, and then prepping yourself for doing the big website job. And that's what a lot of what this article talks about, is how to kind of prep yourself for the big website job. Okay.
And then, of course, this last one, the 12 clever lead generation strategies you probably aren't using.
Yeah, so this is a bit of a blended one between how you can leverage your CRM and your digital content a little bit more effectively. Mm-hmm. And the idea was just to kind of put a couple of tidbits out there, a couple of little seeds, so that people can go and research more about how they could take advantage of their online space a bit more. And also you'll see that there's some traditional marketing in there too. So we talk about cold calling and all the little elements in your business that you might have either thought about or never thought about. And we just wanted to kind of put that out there so you could go, oh, wow, yes, I forgot, I could do that. That's another avenue I haven't explored in my business.
Yeah, often sometimes when you're looking at a business, and I've been working with a gym over the last couple of weeks, and we've created Facebook ad, which is certainly generating a lot of traffic to the website, but they're not converting, right? Now, where we're driving them through, we didn't necessarily have the sign-up page. We didn't have a lot of design choices around that. So after driving and spending a lot of money driving traffic there, we decided to go a different sort of tactic, and that was the tactic of we need to educate these people on why we're sort of different. So now we drive them through to like a messenger, just using a simple platform called ManyChat, building up a conversation with them, and it was about it came from something like the blog sort of concept, going, we can't explain it in one ad. So we need to talk to them over a particular time and build a relationship and explain to them how we're doing all this. So we actually got a copywriter in. Now the copywriter doesn't know anything about the industry. So what I had to do is video the boys at the gym describing why what they're good about, what makes them sort of unique. And the copywriter then is going to put that into a range of blog articles. But I already know the conversion rate in that type of person is going to be way, way higher. All right. So absolutely. And that's just one of the strategies. So I've read this particular article. You might read and sort of going, well, purchase a list, trade show, that's not me. But read through an article like this, because you're sort of going, okay, before I cringe on cold calling, what is it in this particular strategy that some people get that I just don't get? All right. Then roll down to purchasing a list. Okay, well, there's lots of different ways to purchase a list. All right. You could be borrowing a list. All right. Trade shows is another way of forming a list. Now, I didn't get to 16,000 people in my database with not understanding some of the concepts that are in these little tips that you're giving out here, Bernard. That's great.
I am getting a list is look at joint ventures. Who else in your industry has a like business that would add value from you also talking to their customers? And likewise, they'll do the same for you. So it could be something like in the health industry, it could be something like a personal trainer and a physio. They could partner up, share each other's contacts. You promote your service to them and they promote their service to your people. And it's mutually beneficial for both sets of customers. So it adds value to both sets of customers. What you want to ensure is if you're reaching out to people, whether it's on the phone or through an email, it's adding value. You're not there to sell because you don't know them and they don't know you.
Well, even if you look at this, our relationship formed, years ago. I remember driving, actually, I remember driving a really nice car at the time I first met you. Hopefully my order for the mint color one is on its way and being made. They're excited about that. But we've got something in common right now. Neither one of us know what I'm going to say next. No, I've totally lost it. What were we just talking about?
When we met, add value, not sell.
Oh, add value. You think about this. I've created and cured a group in the Better Business Place, right? We're up to about 450 people here who are really engaged. And I've put that together and I'm allowing you to come in and speak. Now, if I do it in a way that it creates value and you get on this particular show and add value, I know that what ends up happening are two things. The law of reciprocity, you will want to help me in return, no matter what I'm asking, but also the people inside this group just see you giving valuable content, and then we'll go to the next stage and going, oh, okay, well, maybe this guy, I'll check him out. And I certainly encourage you to do so. As I keep on saying, I don't get people on this show who I haven't met or personally had an experience with. So I know, look at this one. This is really nice to thank you. Chris just comes up and says, hey, it helps a lot. So thanks for being part of the show today, Chris. Really appreciate that. And what Bernard was really offering there was some really great sort of information if you're listening. All right, look, I didn't realize how much we've you and I have just chit-chatted, which is exactly what used to happen when we used to catch up live, mate. So I'll just remove this and get a bigger here. So, mate, let me throw it out to your gift, all right? So each week I ask a visitor to come on here, what's something else, a goodie that you could give away to the people who participated in this call or watching the replay at a later stage. So what have you got in store for everyone that's come today?
Yeah, sure. Look, there are so many things that can be done within this sphere, but the most important thing is to get the positioning right. So we've put together a brand tool. It takes about half an hour for somebody to go through it. And then we provide a 15-minute complimentary consultation. And we do that to kind of help people get in the right direction. So whether or not they're working with an agency or they're trying to go it alone, they have the right elements in place in order to make it most effective, to make it as effective as possible. So, you know, I really be quite excited to offer that up to anyone who would be interested. Go through the tool and we'll give you a link. I'm sure Glenn will provide that, and go through the tool together. And
so this is this one?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. That's what share with
down, I believe there's a green panel there which has a button that you can just click into the brand tool. There it is. And you can click the brand tool straight from there.
Okay. And what do they get when they actually do that?
So in there, there's a bit of there's a survey. It's about a 4-step survey that looks at where you're at right now, where your goals are, what the goals are for the brand, and what you and where you're trying to position the brand. Then I will review it and have a look at it. So it's definitely some time that I'll invest in there for you. And then I'll review it. I'll compare it to your competitors, and then we'll sit down and have the chat, 15-minute chat, and go through where the opportunities might lie or what you haven't yet uncovered in your brand.
Wow, that's very generous. Thanks very much, man. I appreciate that. So if you are just being a part of the Better Business Place, this is exactly what I wanted to create. I wanted to bring people who were very good at what they did in front of the audience of people that know me or know part of the group, so that they could get really good insights to people who can actually help them. One of the things that really ticks me off the most is how many people spend money on absolute or complete muppets that either don't know what they're doing or have an agenda that's not serving, you know, the contact. And I've just seen it so many times. So Chris was able to get a bit of an insight onto what should I do. And most of the time we want to just ask those couple of quick questions to make sure we're going down the right path. Here's another tool where you really need to get your branding right, because I've had that Referral Guy brand for quite a long time now. That's how most people know me. But the money that I'd invested back then, if you start to extrapolate it over the years that I've actually had the brand, it's actually very, very good value. Now, the people that I've attracted into my world as clients now, there's no way I would have attracted them with my old graphics and stuff like that. In fact, the types of clients I was attracting them were those, oh, God, I can't stand these people, or I can't add a lot of value. So, you know, do yourself a favor, start out with someone talking to you about at the very, very beginning, especially if you have a great understanding of what you want the business to be. If you're still up in the air about it, you might need to do some, you know, thinking first. So, hey, mate,
brand tool can help with that. It can help really.
Okay.
And we've heard that from customers all the time. Just going through the tool itself allows them to think of things they've never thought about in their brand before. And then they go, oh, wow, I've never really ever thought about that, or I've never really positioned this before. Oh, it was so great because of the insights. And we export the whole thing and we send it to you to make sure that you have it so you can read through your answers. If there was anything that you wrote in there that sparked a couple of thoughts, we send that survey that you filled out to you, so you can then always have it there as a reference. So it really does help you kind of get your thoughts in place and in order, you know?
Okay. All right. Well, is there any parting words that you want to say?
I guess I want to say thank you. Thank you for your time, Glenn, and thank you for everyone that was listening. And this has been a lot of fun. Really enjoyed it. So I hope everyone else did and got a lot of value out of it. Yeah,
well, you never really know who's watching the show. A good buddy of mine who I met through introduction, a guy called Steve Brosnan, has just chimed on at the last minute and sort of said, "Hey, great stuff, boys." So when you're getting comments like that from leading experts, then you know you're on a winner. Thanks very much for being a part of the show, mate. I really would like to catch up with you and have that live session. Maybe we could come up with some COVID masks under the TRG brand. I think that'd be quite comical because most of my work is all about relationships and the spoken word, and then have a mask that covers that. Anyway, until next week, this is Glenn Kirkwood, aka That Referral Guy, signing off with a reminder to make, build, and share connections. And I'll see you next time. Thanks very much, everyone. Bye for now.